Should you blind buy your bottles or should you order decant samples when exploring the fragrance game? I think it is a valid question for somebody who is trying to be financially mindful when exploring this very, very expensive hobby. So honestly, I think there are justified reasons for both sides of it. I want to present them and then give you my final opinion now as someone who has spent hundreds of dollars doing both. So let's get into it. Let's begin with some of the things that I think are a little bit more obvious when talking about this debate. What are the negatives to blind buying your fragrances? The number one is that there is just a very high inherent risk, okay? Especially if you're talking about fragrances that are in the 100, 200, 300, especially once you start to go into private line fragrances and niche fragrances that go up 500 and above dollars per bottle. That is a lot of money to be essentially gambling on something that you may dislike, especially when you have the ability to go in store and sample something on a tester strip, or you have the ability to just spend $5 or $10 and get a very small sample of something and see if you're into it. It just feels like the irresponsible choice when you talk about how much money you will spend on a single fragrance, and especially if you start to amass a collection. It adds up so quickly, and so this is just such an easy way to burn a hole straight through your wallet. If you have any sense of financial responsibility whatsoever, then you realize how irresponsible it is to do this. And now a lot of people will tell you, oh, like I can go online, I can look at the note breakdown, I can look at the accords that are listed online on Fragrantica or some of these other websites. And you can, but in my experience, like you cannot trust the accords and the note breakdown to get a full picture of what the fragrance is gonna do, how strong it's gonna be, how it's gonna connect with your skin, and whether or not you're gonna like it or not. You simply can't trust it, okay? There's been fragrances that I've tried that, met the mark in terms of the notes and accords, and I sprayed it on, and I either just thought it was kind of boring or dull, or it was too much, too powerful, too, just not for me, honestly. And so when you blind buy fragrances, you really run the risk of this happening to you. And so it's almost inevitable that you're gonna miss at some point. And I think especially at the beginning of your fragrance exploration phase, which if you're watching this video, that's maybe why you're watching, it's really easy to swing and miss, because when you listen to people explaining fragrances, everything sounds interesting. Everything sounds alluring, or, oh, I wanna know what that smells like. Like the curiosity kind of gets to you. Everything sounds good, especially when it's presented by online influencers who are trying to sell things to you and get a commission from you. Everybody hypes everything up. And so blind buying and falling victim to some of the hype, the feeling of FOMO and things like that is just a really easy way to not only burn a hole in your wallet, but also kind of kill the enthusiasm for the hobby as well. And even in some cases, that disappointment can lead to you making additional blind buys and additional purchases, feeling like, oh, well, like this didn't work, so I need to find one that really does fit for me. And you end up just spending more money and end up digging yourself into a deeper and deeper financial hole, which just leads to just perpetuating all these things that we're talking about. I think some of these risks are pretty universally understood and quite obvious, but I did want to just touch on them. So let's talk about some of the good things that come when you blind buy a full-size bottle fragrance. The first one is that you're really kind of forced to sit with it, okay? You're forced to wear it and understand it and figure out how to appreciate it. There's so many people that will testify that they hated fragrances when they first got them. That first initial impression of something was off-putting, they didn't like it. But there's the same amount of people would also say, I hated this fragrance when I first got it, but now that I've let it sit, or now that I've worn it a few more times, it's become more approachable to me. I like it a lot more. It ended up being a fragrance that's one of my favorites. It ends up being something I wear all the time, something that I love. And when you have a small decant, you can't really do that, especially if you just spray something on a tester strip. You're only judging it based on its first impression. When you have a decant or you spray something on a tester strip, sample it in store, you're really just judging the fragrance based on your first impression of it. I think the process of sitting with the fragrance and really trying to understand it and grow into it is how you really can develop a lot of your fragrance taste. But let's say that doesn't happen, and honestly, it's not gonna happen that often, but I think it will happen if you get full-size bottles. Let's just say you get something and you know for a fact, oh my God, I hate this. This is not for me. I don't want this. I blind bought this and it was a total waste of money. Well, on the bright side, you can trade your bottles. You can trade them, you can sell them. There's a million different groups online, forums that you can join and connect with other fragrance enthusiasts and put these bottles that you have up for trade or up for sale and get a return from this bottle. Now there's a whole set of risks associated with trading fragrances online. I've done a full video about trading fragrances online. You can go and watch that if you're more interested in me talking about doing online trading with your fragrances. It's one of my favorite parts about the fragrance community, but I'll stay on topic. If you order a decant and you don't like it, you're kind of just done. Like you're kind of just stuck with that little small sample size bottle. You know what I mean? You can't really trade it. I mean, you could, but your ability to trade it or kind of get some more value out of that fragrance is completely gone. Now, I've ordered plenty of decants myself throughout my life. I've spent hundreds of dollars on decants. I think they are a great way to really explore fragrances, especially in that initial phase of discovery, when you're just trying to try a whole bunch of stuff, develop your taste, and kind of see what direction, what fragrances, what notes, what styles kind of pull you in a direction that you like. Especially, like I said, when you consider that these fragrances can be $200, $300, $400, $500 per bottle, if you are willing to spend that much money on a fragrance, then, you know, it really is in your interest to get a $7 to $10 sample size of the fragrance to prevent the blind buy gone wrong. You can sample a lot of fragrances at one time for the same price as one full-size bottle. You minimize the risk that comes with not liking a fragrance or maybe just kind of even being indifferent to a fragrance. But I also do want to touch on the negative side of buying decants. Ultimately, you kind of stop using them. Most of the decants that I've bought throughout my life are really just collecting dust, and I got to the point now where I have more small decant-sized bottles than I do full-size bottles. Many of them I tried 1 or 2 times and kind of just moved on with, and that little small decant bottle has stayed in this little section of my closet and just has ultimately become clutter. And then I found myself in the cycle of just ordering more and more and more samples because I just want to sample and try more and more fragrances. And then it gets to the point where I have so many of these small size bottles. They're taking up so much space. A vast majority of them I'm probably never going to use or wear. And now I've got a bag of probably $300, $400, $500 worth of decant samples that are really worth nothing to me. Whereas if I had taken that $400 or $500 and put it into buying full-size bottles and really trying out fragrances that I thought I might like, I may either have a couple full-size bottles in my collection that I could have used with that money, or I could have traded those bottles and, you know, kept some of that value that I spent on them. So it's kind of one of those things like, buying decants is really good when you're first getting into the hobby and you're first trying to explore and kind of broaden your horizons and try a whole bunch of different stuff. But it does get to a point where when you've tried enough stuff and you know your taste to a certain degree, you can blind buy with relative accuracy. Now, granted, there's never a guarantee. It's never going to be a 100% chance of success whenever you're blind buying a fragrance. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Cal Cologne blind buy review series. He misses all the time. I also think there's so many fragrances that are such a good price nowadays. Like there's so many lower price good fragrance options that you don't need to really spend your money on the samples anymore. You can get full-size bottles of good fragrances in the $40, $50, $60 range. So to me, like if you're gonna be spending less than say $75 on a full-size bottle, there's no need to get a sample of it. I would just go ahead and get the full-size bottle anyways, because like I said, if you don't like it, you can trade it, you can get that value back. But getting a decant of a bottle that's already relatively inexpensive anyways, you're hiking the cost that you're spending per milliliter on that fragrance. And I do still order some decants, and for me that's like the niche fragrances that go over $200 a bottle. That is something that I'm like, no, I really do need to sample it, not only just get a sense of the scent profile, but I need to be able to wear it on skin, see how long it lasts, see the performance, see if I like it all the way from the opening all the way through the dry down, give it the full wear before pulling the trigger on really dropping a ton of money on a fragrance. So the argument has kind of become more nuanced for me. I used to be fully in favor of like, you need to buy a decant of everything before buying a full-size bottle. It's the financially responsible way to explore the fragrance game, but as I've spent more time and as I've collected just massive quantities of decants, I've kind of just realized like, okay, I am spending way too much to do all this sampling. I'm not focusing on trying to actually intentionally find something that I know I'm going to like and that I want to continue to wear in my collection. It's just kind of become clutter, okay? And the clutter, to me, I don't like having clutter in my collection. I like every single fragrance in my collection to have a specific use case or practicality to it. I don't just like having things for the sake of having them. And I think that that's what all those decants that I have turned into. And now I have so many, I feel the need to kind of run through them and overspray them and kind of get rid of them and at least use them. And what I end up doing is wearing all these fragrances that I've bought samples of that I don't like instead of the full-size bottles that I do like, just for the sake of trying to get through all the samples. And you know, it's just one of those things that it doesn't that's just not what I want to be doing with this hobby, honestly. I don't want to be wearing things for the sake of wearing them. I want to wear what I like. I want to wear what makes me feel good, what makes me feel confident. And now I feel like I kind of have to blow through all these hundreds of decants that I've bought simply because I have them. And that's just not a position I think anybody really wants to be in. So I just wanted to come on here and share some of my insights as someone who, you know, has really tried to do the right thing and save money through decants, but has ended up kind of taking it too far. So let me know what you think down below when it comes to what are your rules for when you would blind buy something? When would you get a decant of something? I would love to hear from you down in the comments section below. If you watched this video all the way through, I highly appreciate it. Please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. I've been working on it hard. I appreciate every single one of you. So thanks so much for watching again. Hope to see you in the very next video. Have a good one.